of station staff, management, and advertisers.
Multiple conversations with Don Lemon. I spoke to him on the phone last night. I spoke to him on the phone this morning. He was the top trending story on Twitter last night because we had some people that went into a church and started protesting, and now everybody on the far right, Don Lemon in jail, throw away the key. It's an insane story, and the hypocrisy from the right is unbelievable. We're certainly going to get to that, but of course, it also is Monday, and there's a lot of other stuff happening around the world in the news that we will be getting to. Happy Martin Luther King Day, by the way. I had to do the show today, of course, honoring Martin Luther King and what he meant for the civil rights movement and how the right wants to make this day just disappear, at least some on the right. We'll get to all that as well. But joining me right now, my first guest of the week, it's always great having him on a Monday. He is the editor-in-chief of Midas Touch. Of course, the one, the only Ron Filipkowski joining us right now on the show. Ron, it's good to see you, my friend. How are you?
Good. You too. Yeah. Following that, I've been following that Lemon thing very closely. And what I can tell you is because I watched all the interviews today that Harmeet Dillon and Pam Bondi and some of the others gave about this subject. Alina Habba was also on Fox. And it's pretty clear that some arrests are going to be made. You know, definitely some arrests are going to be made. I don't know whether it's going to include Don Lemon or not, but they're going to arrest some people.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that because according to the FACE Act, maybe you could give me a little bit of knowledge into it. There doesn't have to be a force of physical contact or anything.
We lost Brian.
But if you can explain
He's
to
back.
there we go.
What lost you for a minute?
Explain to me what the FACE Act is.
So there's two parts to the FACE Act. One part Republicans hate and one part Republicans love. And that was sort of a compromise to get it passed. Was there's something in it for each side politically. The first part talks about that protesters, people cannot harass people going in and out of abortion clinics, you know, patients, doctors, nurses. You can't harass, yell at, obstruct people that are trying to get medical care. And that was specifically directed at abortion clinics. The second part of it is basically the same thing for churches, which says that you also can't do that for religious services. Well, the people organizing this protest believe that the pastor of this particular church, which is a very conservative sort of right-wing political group, was helping ICE facilitate identifying migrants and different things. So they went there to basically protest the pastor. And I get, you know, the door was open and they went inside. And so how Don Lemon got swept up into this is there's two sides to the story. You know, Lemon says that he was just, you know, randomly wandering around Minneapolis covering protests and saw this group and talked to them and followed them there to cover what they were doing as a reporter.
Right.
The right-wingers in the Department of Justice do not believe him, and they believe that he is the one who orchestrated the whole thing as like a publicity stunt for his podcast or whatever.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's like a perfect storm for right-wingers where you're talking about freedom of religion, you know, a church service getting interrupted over migrants. And then, of course, Don Lemon is involved, who, you know, Trump hates and they hate. So it's like a perfect storm. And then you have, on top of that, you have Pam Bondi, you know, you have the DOJ people who are roundly criticized by the right, by their own supporters, for not doing anything, you know, not being tough enough, not taking action. So you have all these people calling for their heads. So you have Bondi and Dillon, who's the civil rights chief with DOJ, going. And at first I thought, oh, this is going nowhere. This is dumb, you know. But then I saw their media tour that they did this morning. They were all on Fox and everything saying, you know, heads are going to roll and all that stuff. So that kind of convinced me now to where it's pretty clear that what they're going to do is they're going to try and placate the MAGA mob who's demanding arrests here.
Right.
and they're going to charge some people. But again, whether they include Lemon, see, that takes it to a different level because that
Ron,
involves a high
I
profile journalist.
I don't think they're going to be able to do that. Here's why I don't think. And I spoke to Don last night and this morning. He didn't know who these people were. He told me until he flew in there yesterday. They told him, hey, we're going to be protesting at the church. You should come. He shows up just recording. And then he did like a 1-minute interview with the pastor. And so he wasn't a part of the actual protest.
If that's it, then he's
yeah,
so,
there's no evidence that he was part of the protest. And he wasn't. He was recording the whole time. I do find it interesting, though, Ron, that if they want this big investigation, lock up these people, throw away the key, whether they were breaking the law or not, that's yet to be decided. But what were they doing? They were chanting, say her name, Renee Good, hands up, don't shoot. Okay, they did disrupt the church service. So all these people on the far right, they want a full investigation. But yet when it comes to Jonathan Ross, no investigation at all. A woman was killed, as you know. No investigation there. They're totally okay with that. But God forbid if a church service is interrupted, give these people the electric chair. I just find the hypocrisy incredible.
Well, that's true. I mean, they wanted an investigation launched of Renee Good's wife or significant other there, because I've seen conflicting reports that they were actually legally married. Whether they were or not, I'm not sure. But the point is, they wanted her investigated, and 6 federal prosecutors with the Minneapolis office resigned in protest, refused to do it. And so they got rid of all of them, and they brought in new people that are apparently now investigating her and may do something to charge her. They're also investigating protesters. But when Todd Blanche was on the Sunday shows yesterday, the deputy attorney general was asked point blank, are you going to investigate at all the officer who killed Renee Good? He said, nope, we're not doing that. There will be no investigation.
God, just the hypocrisy is just mesmerizing to me. Do you think that the Insurrection Act will be implemented, Ron, anytime soon here?
I think there's a really, really good chance. I mean,
Wow.
You have the reports of the 1,500 Army soldiers, and they're pulling some Arctic troops out of Alaska because, of course, Minnesota is, negative 20 degrees this time of year. So I guess they don't want to send troops there, from Alabama or Georgia into there. So we're talking about sending a unit from Alaska there. But that would be crazy. Obviously, this is something that Trump has been itching to do. He wanted to do it badly his first term for several different things. It hasn't been done since 1992. That was when George H.W. Bush 1 invoked it during the LA riots, where I think a couple dozen people were killed. I mean, that was a pretty heavy duty riot. I think those were the Rodney King riots, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. So when the not guilty verdict came in, right, that was the last time that the Insurrection Act, but Trump has been dying to do it. And what that allows them to do is basically 2 things: put United States active duty military troops into a city, not National Guard, active duty troops. That's number 1. And number 2, declare martial law, which is an option where you can suspend the Constitution. Like, there's no First Amendment rights, there's no Fourth Amendment rights, there's no Fifth Amendment rights, there's no right to attorneys. The actual he could do that if he invokes the Insurrection Act, which means no one in the city will have any constitutional rights for as long as that remains in effect.
I just can't even imagine what that will look like, Ron. I can't even imagine what that will look like in Minneapolis, and I think it'll do
curfew as well.
I think it'll do more harm than good.
Dark,
I think it'll do more harm than good, and I just I think you're right. I think the chances are, if this continues to escalate, it's probably only going to get worse. If you're just joining us, Ron Filipkowski, editor-in-chief of Midas Touch. All right, I got to ask you about this, Ron. Vladimir Putin is now being asked by the Trump administration to join the Board of Peace. I mean, is this a joke? When I first read this, I thought it was like from The Onion. I thought it was a joke, but no, it's actually true. I mean, of all people, Ron, Vladimir Putin. I mean, what do you make of this story?
Yeah, Viktor Orban, Lukashenko for Belarus, which is, Putin's puppet in neighboring Belarus. Those are some of the invitees. So what is this Board of Peace? I hate the name because there's nothing peaceful about it. The Board of Peace is going to be an organization that Trump is putting together, where he is the leader of it, that in theory is supposed to go into Gaza and rebuild and redevelop Gaza, which I think what we all know is that means displacing the population, which Trump has talked about doing, moving them out into other countries, other Arab countries, and building condos and hotels. We know Kushner is in this. We know Witkoff is in this, and now they want to bring in people like Putin, Lukashenko, Orban, some of the worst, most despicable people. France already announced this morning that they are not doing this. They are not participating. And the reason is because they said this is being sold as a Gaza only thing, but it's really not. If you read the charter, it goes beyond that. What Trump is trying to do is create an alternate United Nations, is basically put together his own United UN controlled by him that will take the place of the UN in a lot of different things around the world, where he will basically be Secretary General of this thing. And there's also a $1 billion fee to remain in this, for each country to remain in this organization. So you have to pay $1 billion every 3 years. So I think what you're going to see is most of the civilized, normal countries around the world are going to want no part of this.
Yeah. I again, when I read the headline here, I thought it was a joke. You're right. There's nothing peaceful about this. I have to ask you, Ron, you, a former service member, what Martin Luther King Day means to you. And I also want to ask you about so many on the right, even the late Charlie Kirk, who would basically demonize on a regular basis, particularly on this day, Martin Luther King, about how, he was so awful for African Americans. And still a lot of people on the right on this very day do that. And then you have Donald Trump, who, as you know, took the MLK Jr. statue out of the Oval Office. It seems like a lot of people on the right don't like to honor Martin Luther King Jr., certainly not on a day like today.
So, yeah, I've had a lot of, people, heroes over the years that I really studied a lot, spent a lot of time studying their lives and stuff. And, I can think of Gandhi is one, Martin Luther King is certainly another, Winston Churchill obviously is another one, and which is odd because Churchill and Gandhi were enemies, but I still respect both of them for different reasons. So various people over time, and King is definitely one of them. I taught African American history in high school years ago. Read everything about him, and this morning I actually reread my favorite King writing, which is his letter from a Birmingham jail, which I recommend everybody read. You can read it for, it's 10 minutes. It's actually something that he wrote while he was in jail in the margins of a newspaper, because they didn't give him anything to write. They gave him a pencil and a newspaper, and that was it. And he wrote it in the margins of the newspaper and then mailed it out, and it ended up getting published. But so it's I think the best thing he's ever written. And he wrote it in a jail cell. So I recommend anybody go online, Google it, and read it. Letter from a Birmingham jail. My favorite speech is his mountaintop speech, which he gave the night before he died. He was shot, and he had a very bad fever and illness, and he was supposed to speak to a group in Memphis, and he didn't want to. He was very sick. He had like 104 fever, but he didn't want to disappoint the people, so he came down and he's sweating like crazy. You can see the video of it because he had a fever. And he gave this speech, a mountaintop speech, because it's famous because he had a premonition about his own death. And he was talking a lot about dying leading up to this day. So because he was getting a lot of pretty serious, heavy threats. And, he gave the speech, the mountaintop. He said, we're going to get to the mountaintop. And then he said, I may not get there with you. And to me, that's the most powerful line in the speech, because what he's saying is, I know I'm not going to survive this. I'm going to be killed. I mean, he talked about it all the time, and yet he continued to get out there and do it anyway. And the next day he was shot and killed. So those are two powerful things. So yes, when I hear people like Charlie Kirk, on the right, who is a mental midget or was, constantly every year on Martin Luther King Day, he would give a show where he would trash Martin Luther King Jr. And he knows very little about him. He's really, people credit him for being some highly intelligent guy. He's not. He's a very uneducated person, but he's a good propagandist, and he was a good speaker, public speaker, but his knowledge is very thin. And so, he used to make all these ridiculous, and of course he thought that we should not have a Martin Luther King holiday and all that. So, yep. It's one of the reasons why, I didn't trash him after he was killed, of course, because I don't do that.
Right.
But, he wasn't a good guy.
Yeah, completely agree with you. We can call out what happened to him, which was horrible, but it doesn't mean we have to celebrate his life. And I'm certainly not doing that. So I'm with you on that one. What's interesting, since Maduro was kidnapped, that's the word that I would use. And since we took over Venezuela, the regime is still intact. So I'm trying to figure out, do they want regime change? Do they not want regime change? What is going on there? Because to my knowledge, the entire regime is still intact.
So, the Venezuelan American community in South Florida is very politically powerful, and it's very closely aligned with the Cuban American community, and they're heavily Republican, and their representatives are very in tune with them. The Spanish language radios are all locked in with them, and they hate Maduro and they hate the regime in Cuba for a lot of good reasons. And so when Trump went in and took out Maduro, this is something that they wanted for a long time. And they all celebrated and they all cheered, and they had their big moment. And then they heard, oh, wait a minute, Trump is supporting Maduro's vice president and leaving the entire regime in place. He just removed Maduro. And now we find out he's getting hundreds of millions of barrels of oil, and he's got a broker who gave Trump who donated $6 million to Trump's PAC, who is selling this oil on the international market to God knows who. We have no idea. And they're taking these proceeds, which is, I think, approaching $1 billion, and they're putting it in a bank in Qatar. And Trump is handling the money, and Congress has nothing to do with that. So that's what's going on. I mean, basically, the Maduro regime is bribing Trump with oil to remain in power. So I continue to taunt the Republican members of Congress down there in South Florida, who continue, like Rick Scott and others in Congress down there, who continue to try to assure their members, don't worry, Trump is going to hold elections. He's working on it. He's going to get these people out of there, and he's going to put Machado, who just gave her peace prize to Trump, he's going to put her in charge. So they're trying to calm down their people that they've been lying to. But I'm just wondering, like, how long does this have to go on before these people down there, who are all Trump supporters, are going to realize that he doesn't give a shit about Venezuela? And he doesn't give a shit about them or the people or democracy or freedom in Venezuela. All the things that they passionately care about, Trump doesn't care about. Trump wants the oil so he can sell it, so he can create this gigantic slush fund of billions of dollars that he can decide however he's going to use it. Who knows? That's what this is all about. And I'm curious to find out if this fractures his Latino base in South Florida that is strongly supporting him.
Who knows? I mean, I that's a good question. But when you look at all the things that he has done to this point, I would say that might not change anything for some of these people. But I guess we'll have to see. This is a story that isn't getting a lot of headway, and under normal circumstances, I think this would be a leading story on a lot of networks. This letter that Trump wrote to the Prime Minister of Norway, which not a lot of people are talking about. Can you explain to people what this is all about, and why in any normal circumstance this would kind of be a big story?
It's bizarre on so many levels, because it's bizarre on one hand because the Prime Minister of Norway had no intention of making this public. But Trump decided to send copies of the letter to every member of NATO. It's like 28 countries. So it ended up getting out into the media through one of them. It's just bizarre because, he basically just sent this letter saying, you screwed me over. You never gave me this prize. I deserved it. So I used to care a lot about peace, and I used to talk a lot about peace around the world, but now I don't care anymore about peace. And I'm not going to talk about it anymore. I care about conquest at this point. Basically just letting them know that since you didn't give me the Nobel Prize, I'm going to take Greenland now. I mean, that's basically what he said. And the Norwegian Prime Minister responded to him basically saying, like, we have nothing to do with the Nobel Prize. The fact that Alfred Nobel was Norwegian and the committee meets in Norway is fine, but our government has no control over this. This is a private board. that makes the decisions, and we have no say over it. But, Trump doesn't care about all of those things. Laws and rules don't apply to Trump. He just wants the damn prize. I think he was also mad that they put out the statement after Machado gave him the medal, that they put out the statement that says this is meaningless, like you can't transfer this award. I think that made him upset because it kind of like pissed all over his big moment of her handing him this medal. Interestingly enough, though, he did not do that on camera. He specifically kept the cameras out, where normally he would always have cameras in there filming something like that, but he didn't. Right. He just had the photo. So what that tells me is like his political people begged him not to put that on camera, because knowing that would be viral around the world and he would be a complete laughingstock. But the picture itself was good enough. I mean, he was a laughingstock anyway.
Unbelievable. Like I said, under normal circumstances, this would be a leading story. Ron, there is so much for you to get to, I'm sure, today with your Substack. What do you got working on right now?
Yeah, so I am doing a lot on that lemon thing and the Greenland stuff, covering the World Economic Forum that's going on over there in Davos, Switzerland right now, which Trump is oddly enough going to. Some of the stuff in the I wrote a little bit about the Michael Cohen situation yesterday that, played out, which I was not happy with. So, yeah, some of that stuff. And, I also thought it was the Shapiro book just came out, talking about his vetting process with Harris. That's a little controversial. So getting into that as well. And of course, the Minnesota stuff.
Yeah, the Minnesota stuff, and we'll see what transpires here in the next couple of days, right, with these protests, if it gets worse before it gets better. Ron, we'll let you get back to work. Always appreciate the time, my friend, on a Monday, and thank you so much as always, and looking forward to reading your Substack today. Have a good rest of your day, my friend.
Okay, thank you. You too. See you.
Thanks, Ron. All right, everybody, that's Ron Filipkowski, one of my favorites, as I say all the time. Just does a great job covering the news. Honestly, I read his Substack every single day. It's phenomenal. I mean, he covers everything. So JoJo from Jers, Joanna Carducci, is going to be joining us here in just a few minutes. I'm going to be getting into detail into what took place in Minneapolis with this church involving Don Lemon. He was the biggest trending story. It's so crazy. Yesterday, I'm preparing for the show. I think it was like in the afternoon. I open up my laptop and I start working, and I go on Twitter, and all of a sudden I see Don Lemon is the highest trending story. And then I find out why. And then I give Don a call and we start talking. And it's hilarious to me. And again, we're going to dive more deep into this story, and I have audio, and we're going to get into it coming up a little bit more in hour number 2. But the hypocrisy of these Bible thumping jerks, these Bible thumping buffoons, they want these people investigated and thrown in jail for protesting and chanting out things like "Say her name, Renee Good." Worst case scenario, did they disturb a church service? Yes, perhaps. Did they technically break the law? Maybe. But all these people on the right want a full investigation, and all these people held to the highest extent of the law, but yet an innocent 37-year-old woman could be shot in the face by an ICE agent. I consider it murder. But regardless of what you think, they don't care if there's no investigation there. They don't care. Nothing to see here. All these ICE agents all across the country brutalizing people, not using warrants, breaking down doors, using tear gas when there are children involved. These churchgoers and these right-wing evangelicals and these right-wing hypocrites, they don't seem to care about any of that stuff. But God forbid, if a church service is interrupted, there's going to be hell to pay. Well, let me explain to you something. I could give 2 Fs about your church service. You can go back to church next week. There's a video or a picture of a child allegedly crying. Let the child cry, okay? Because guess what? Renee Good's children are now going to be growing up without a mother, okay? That's a little bit more important to me than a church service being interrupted. You could go back to your church next week for you Bible thumpers out there, okay? That's what's more important to me, the way people are being treated on the streets. Not able to walk down the street without being ID'd, without being harassed, without being arrested for no reason, grabbed out of your home. Or how about the people that are being pulled by their hair out of churches, being arrested, being detained, being deported. I care a little bit more about that than some stupid church service that was interrupted for about 20 to 30 minutes. Who cares? I don't care. So for all you Bible thumpers out there, I'm speaking to you right now. All you Bible thumpers out there that want all these people that were protesting in this church that didn't make physical contact with anybody, they didn't threaten anybody, they disrupted the service. If you want to cite the FACE Act and you want all these people arrested, by the way, Don Lemon wasn't a protester. I'll get to that later. But if you want all these people arrested, then you could take your Bibles to all you Bible thumper Christians out there and you could shove them up your ass. That's what I say. Shove them up your ass, your Bibles, your Trump Bibles. I don't care. I don't care. I care more about innocent people that are shot in the streets, people that have taken their First Amendment rights away, Second Amendment rights away, Fourth Amendment rights away. You name it. I've had it with these people, these right-wing evangelical Christians that you call yourself, the Caroline Levitts of the world. I've had it with all of you. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will be joined by Joanna Carducci, also known as JoJo from Jers. Love having her on. I know she's going to have some strong opinions on this. We'll be joined by her next. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this on this Martin Luther King Day. You are listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super hero, that is, because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
You are way too smart, way too talented, way too good to be where you are. You are meant to be making way more money, feel way hotter in your body, and having way more fun. Hi, I'm Nicole Mitchell, and I'm a life coach. I help you get hotter and richer. If that is what you're looking for, you can find me at NicoleMitchell.com. My name, Nicole, is with a K, and NicoleMitchell.com. You can reach out to me on my website or on Instagram, and I will be happy to be in touch and figure out what you're looking for and how I can support you in getting there.
Limits on a Monday. Happy Martin Luther King Day to all. And I appreciate everybody joining us on this very special Monday. Obviously, a lot of news to get, a lot of stuff to be discussed, as we just spoke with Ron Filipowski from Midas Touch. And have this lovely lady on for a while. Always love having her on. The very opinionated. There's a reason why she has millions of followers everywhere. Always love having her on. She's known as JoJo from Jers. Joanna Carducci joining us right now on the program on a Monday. JoJo, it is great to see you. It's been a little while. How are you?
Yes, hi. It's great to see you too. Ron was just on. You know how I love Ron. Ron is my friend.
Yes, we're all good friends, and Ron is the best. Gosh, I love his Substack. He's got one of the best around, and I really appreciate having him on. All right, so I got to ask you this to start, JoJo. And by the way, happy Martin Luther King Day. I wanted to ask you about this church situation with Don Lemon. I find it so hypocritical that if a church service is interrupted, all hell breaks loose, and there better be an investigation and lock everybody up. But yet an innocent woman, in my estimation, is murdered on the streets by an ICE agent. Nothing to see here. We don't need an investigation. What do you make of the hypocrisy?
Well, I need you to get me up to speed on this Don Lemon church thing, because I don't know what you're talking about. Please tell me.
Yeah, I mean, he was one of the top trending stories on Twitter yesterday because there was a protest in this church in Minneapolis. Maybe a few dozen people, and they were chanting, "Say her name, Renee Good." They were chanting, "Hands up, don't shoot." And allegedly, the lead pastor there is also an ICE agent. So that's why they chose this church. Okay. And Don Lemon was told about it, and all he did was start recording on his phone, like any good journalist would do. And he interviewed the pastor for like a minute, and all he did was record what was taking place. And now everybody on the right is saying Don Lemon should be in jail, throw away the key. This is the FACE Act. And now the assistant attorney general here in the Trump administration is now opening up an investigation into all these people, threatening the arrest of Don Lemon and others. And I just find it so hypocritical, right? That no investigation into these ICE agents, particularly this guy Ross, who killed Miss Good, but yet a church service is interrupted, and you'd think World War III has begun.
Well, don't call it the Department of Justice anymore. It's the Department of Injustice, right? Like, there's no justice being served here. We're 31 days after the date when they were supposed to release the Epstein files, and they're still not doing it. Like you said, yesterday, Todd Blanche and Kristi Noem went on TV and said there's no investigation needed into Renee Good's murder. They're investigating her widow. They're investigating her mayor. They're investigating her governor. They're investigating, like, their rivals. They're not investigating pedophiles. And they're not investigating her murderer. So it's not justice. This is Donald Trump's personal attorneys. That's what this is. And it's disgusting. And then, the hypocrisy is astounding.
You know, Joanna, I thought about you because obviously you're a good mother and you care about your children so much. And then I remember vividly in my mind the images of Miss Good's car and the stuffed animals, if you remember the pictures coming out of her glove compartment. And apparently she had just dropped off one of her kids at school. And it's very emotional. And I think if you have a moral compass, you see these images and you're just so sad. You're so sad for her kids and her family. And I see Michael Knowles on Piers Morgan. You and I used to do Piers Morgan back in the day. And Michael Knowles is speaking to, her lesbian partner and referring to her. Yeah, it's so awful. And I get so pissed off at these people because it's like, what are you doing? Why does that have any relevance in this story? You want to hate on her widow? She just saw her wife murdered right before her eyes, and you want to attack her for being gay. It's like, I've just had it with these people, Jojo. I really have.
I mean, Michael Knowles, this one always gets me because Michael Knowles tells on himself all the time. I don't know if y'all have seen this, but Michael Knowles was in like a softcore porn that he was in bed with another man. So like, and I'm not, look, no shame in anybody's game. I think that's great. But what you doth protest too much, Michael, because you're out there attacking somebody for being a lesbian. Maybe you're really telling on yourself, that too. And the whole premise of all of this is based in so much hypocrisy that Renee Good deserved to die because she was trying to de-escalate. But they said if you go after a law enforcement agent, because they've already decided, judge and jury and executioner, that she was trying to run him over. But January 6th, you can beat Capitol police officers with their own flags, with their own shields. You can spray them with chemicals. Like we have 2 eyes and ears. All those people got pardoned or commuted, all of those people, and they all went through the justice system, by the way. They all had to sit in court and have evidence presented and investigations were done, but Renee Good didn't get any of that. But somehow she was a domestic terrorist who doesn't get an investigation and she deserved to die. None of them can make sense of that. Kristi Noem was on Jake Tapper and he pressed her, but not enough. Keep asking, ask this question, ask them all also every day, where are the Epstein files? Because they had that video of an ICE agent going to arrest a child sex trafficker. Well, where are the Epstein files? Why are we talking about that? That's
a really good point, Jojo. I tweeted this out yesterday. The only thing that is safe in this country under Donald Trump seems to be the Epstein files. That's it. I mean, it's so sickening. And going back to Renee Good and going back to this situation, they already made up their mind an hour into it that she was a domestic terrorist, which is terrible. Had the Jolly Ginger on the show Friday. Love Jolly. And he's out there in Minneapolis and he's telling me stories about people that are peacefully protesting are being tear gassed. They're getting hit with rubber bullets. Many of these people that are not breaking the law are doing anything wrong. It's like, and people are being ID'd for no reason. Their Fourth Amendment rights taken away from them. Are you from this country? Show me your ID. Show me your paperwork. Is that the country that we want to live in? Like, where are we right now?
They're deciding what breaks the law and what doesn't break the law. That should scare us all. But they're also setting the table here because they've already declared that Antifa is a domestic terrorist organization. And who Antifa is? I didn't get the memo. I didn't go to any of the meetings. I don't know if you have the minutes from the last one. Antifa is whatever they decide it is. And now they're also saying out loud that they're going to have RICO cases against anybody who's paying for these protests. They're going to sweep a whole bunch of people up under under the guise of this being anti-terrorism. And what that means is that anybody who dares to protest peacefully or assemble peacefully against them will be deemed a terrorist, and that they will be incarcerated. That they're already disappearing American citizens. There's one in Minneapolis who wasn't even able to talk to a lawyer for several days. That this is a slippery slope. It is the authoritarians' playbook, and now they're talking about putting our military on those streets as well.
Do you think that's going to happen, Joe? Do you think that the Insurrection Act will be implemented? Because I just talked to Ron Filipowski, and he said he thinks it's going to happen. What do you say?
I think 100%. Unfortunately, I think that with Donald Trump, he always says the quiet part out loud. He always tells you what he's going to do. He doesn't have any impulse control, first of all, but also he's like perpetually tantruming, hangry toddler with a dirty diaper, and he just has to blurt out all this stuff. And honestly, I think the Insurrection Act, he might use that again as some kind of premise for suspending free and fair elections. I think we need to brace for that. I think we can never suffer from a lack of imagination when it comes to both his depravity, his unconstitutionality, his lawlessness, his corruption, and his desperation to make sure that he does not he's never held accountable. And if we get the House, let alone both, if we get the House, he's going to get impeached, and they're all going to be dragged before committees, and he's not going to be able to pass any more of this crap. And he's terrified of all that. So he'll do whatever it takes.
Unfortunately, I agree with you. If you're just joining us, JoJo from Jers joining us, Joanna Carducci. JoJo, I said to myself, if you recall, there was a white woman on a playground who called a 5-year-old black child the N-word. This happened like 7 or 8 months ago. And then her GoFundMe page, she made like close to 7 figures, if I recall. It might have even been more. And then I look at this officer, Jonathan Ross, who is literally now a millionaire. Yeah. And what some of these people, not you and I and many that lean to the left, but what many people in this country are basically saying is it's okay for you to murder somebody if that worse, they're committing a misdemeanor. Not only do we have your back, but we're going to make you rich. I'm thinking again to myself, I don't recognize the country that I live in anymore, where an ICE officer without any investigation can shoot a 37-year-old mother in the face and then get rewarded with millions of dollars in donations, like GoFundMe. What do you make of that? It's just incredible to me.
It's again, with them, every accusation is a confession. And in the wake of Charlie Kirk's killing, so many of us were out there, disavowing violence of all kinds, political violence, etc. Can you just imagine for 1 second if we organized a GoFundMe on the left for the guy who allegedly shot him? Can you just imagine the outrage? They criticized us. I never said one time that I thought he deserved it. I would never say that. I think he was a terrible person. I think that we have whitewashed and sane-washed his history, but I would never tell you this father of children deserved to be killed. But can you imagine if we rewarded his killer and said, "Oh, you know what? You did a good deed, and so self-defense, right, was to take out this terrible person. Here's $1 million." This would be running on Fox 24/7 on a loop, and I think we have to keep calling that out, because one of the things that Donald Trump has done to so many people in this country is he's allowed them to be their worst selves, and he's allowed them to lean in to the most hateful, horrible, horrific, bigoted rhetoric that possible, and we have to make that stuff shameful again. Like, that's what I want to see as a mom, as a parent, for Renee Good, for everybody out there. I mean, it's just like, it's gross to reward someone who has not been punitively damaged by any of this. He murdered her. He shot her 2 times at least. Well, not even when she was in front of him. Okay. And there's 4 bullet wounds from what I understand. This is horrific, but it really does speak to the rot that starts at the top of MAGA. And that's something, again, we need to push back into the shadows and make them ashamed to reward this kind of behavior again.
Agree. I want to talk to you about right-wing grifters, people like Nick Shirley, people like Nick Sorter. Nick Sorter was hanging out outside of Tim Walz's mansion last week, screaming retard in the middle of the night, and he calls himself a journalist. The Cam Higbees of the world, who go to these protests to try to agitate people so they can make content and make money, and then they get invited to the White House. What do you make of the era that we are in today, where if you're a right-wing grifter that spreads hate and bigotry, and you go into these, I don't know, they call it Antifa protest or wherever it might be, to try to get into physical altercations with people so they can make money and play victim? What would you say to these people, and what do you make of them?
I mean, I think that they're the lowest rung of society, really. This is the dredges, right? I mean, first of all, Tim Walz has a son who has special needs. And so just the amorality and the just depravity of standing outside of his home and using what I consider one of the worst slurs there is. I worked in special education. I worked with autistic preschoolers for almost 7 years. It was a gift and a privilege every single day to get to do that. That word really pisses me off. And it's disgusting. And it's one of those hills that the worst of the worst needed to die on, because I got to say that again and again. Just think about that. But this is the economy that they inhabit, right? It's hate, and it's vitriol, and it's bigotry, and it's inciting, and it's violent, and it's mean, and it's bullying. And again, this is systemic. It's metastasized into them, into their ecosystem. And we need to recognize that as a rot in America. And again, they need to understand. We need to go back to gentler, nicer times when these things were thought by people, but they had to whisper them to each other. They couldn't yell it out loud, and they weren't rewarded for it. As a parent of young future adults, I want them to grow up in a world and inhabit a world where we don't reward people for being awful. That's all I want, really.
I agree with you. And it seems like there are way too many awful people in society today that are being rewarded. Whether we talk about somebody like a Candace Owens or a Kanye West or a Donald Trump or a Jared Kushner. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I agree with you. What do you make of the fact that, we're living in times right now where Donald Trump is basically threatening to take over Greenland with military force and threatening to tariff other countries that are not on board with this, kidnapping the president of Venezuela for oil? We all know why he did this. It wasn't for drugs. It wasn't to get a bad guy out of there. I mean, what do you make of the times we're living in now, where Donald Trump is basically saying, we're America and we're tougher than you, so we're just going to take over and steal oil, or just take over your country altogether? What do you make of that?
I mean, the first thought I always have is, where are Republicans? Because this could end tomorrow if they even just became adjacent once again with whatever remnants of a spine they ever had. It could be over tomorrow, and they have completely abdicated their responsibilities. They're letting this bull run rampant in this China shop, and they don't care. And to me, that's the original sin here. It's like, you have a job to do. What are you doing in Congress if you're not going to do your job? And people will say, oh, we don't actually have co-equal branches of government. It seems to me that the United States Congress on the Republican side has forgotten that. So I would start with that. But can we just talk about the idea that he's talking about going to war with another country because he didn't get a peace prize? Like, it seems to me that if you're going to threaten war with another country because you didn't get a peace prize, that you probably didn't deserve a peace prize to begin with.
True. That's very, very true. Machado, that whole thing was so awkward, and it just makes me want to vomit. It was absolutely so disgusting. I have to ask you about this. Vladimir Putin being asked to join the board of peace. I mean, to me, that's like a pedophile asking a pedophile to be a kindergarten teacher. I mean, you're asking the guy who literally is responsible for God knows how many innocent people dying, particularly the war in Ukraine. And Donald Trump is welcoming him with open arms for this board of peace. There's nothing peaceful about this. What do you make of that?
I mean, the whole board of peace is nonsense, right? But like, yes, he's a war criminal. One, again, doublespeak. One, that Donald Trump is telling us we need to take Greenland to stop because he's a threat to Greenland. He's a threat to Greenland. And yet at the very same time, he's worthy of a membership, $1 billion membership on this board of peace, which is gaslighting, right? It's like, would you make Jeffrey Dahmer would you put him in charge of the menu? You know what I mean? Like that. It's just we want to ask Bill Cosby for dating advice. So like he's like, let me see if Epstein can be my kid's nanny. I mean, this is insane. It's gaslighting. By the way, it's also really scary. That's the thing, is that everything he does, you have to both somehow laugh at the absurdity of it and then realize, oh my God, he gets away with this stuff because what he's doing is actively trying to dismantle NATO and end our allyships with our consistently democratic partners around the world and realign the United States of America, defender of freedom, with the world's worst actors, with Putin, with Xi, with Kim Jong-un. This is a shift in everything the United States of America has defined itself by for generations. And one former reality TV game show host who paints himself orange and is literally one of the dumbest human beings to exist, he gets to flip the script and suddenly we're the axis of evil. I mean, it's absolutely insane. Where is Congress? That's Congress.
That's a good point. I say that pretty much every single day. I'm wondering, though, with the midterms right around the corner, Joe, obviously we can't get complicit in this, but do you feel like there's any shift? We know that Donald Trump's approval ratings are abysmal. Okay, we know that, but yet he still has his base of supporters. But I am feeling like Donald Trump would do anything he could, and maybe he will, I hope he doesn't, in not having an election at all. I mean, who knows what's next down the road, but I do feel like Republicans are a little bit in trouble here, and politically speaking, Donald Trump is not doing very well. I mean, what do you get a sense of where we're at right now?
Well, he's certainly not acting like he needs to worry about votes, and they certainly seem to be worried about votes, which they should be. If we have a free and fair election, and I hate the fact that I have to say if in front of those words, but this is where we are now. I also don't necessarily believe we've done the full analysis on whether or not we had a free and fair election the last time around. And I know that people be like, oh, that sounds conspiratorial. Well, I just don't think he won all the swing states, and the popular vote, but whatever. But we cannot suffer from a lack of imagination. He is underwater on every issue, including immigration. He is deeply, deeply unpopular. And if we have free and fair elections, God willing, we do, there's going to be a reckoning unlike any other in probably modern history. And I would just point to what just happened in New Jersey and Virginia and in Miami and in places like Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and even in spots of Georgia in November. And then a few months after, we had some elections here. Special elections were in Tennessee, Florida. We made up huge ground. If we go by those metrics, we should win handily. And I don't even think that the Senate math is beyond our reach now. We have incredible candidates in places like Alaska and Maine, and Georgia's back on the map here. And we have opportunities if things go the way they should go, based on historical context for midterms, which traditionally swing away from the party in charge. We should win overwhelmingly. What I'm really worried about is that there are lots of levers that he can pull to make sure that we don't have free and fair elections. One of which is the SAVE Act, which would make it very, very difficult, if not outright impossible, for women like me who married and changed our names to vote. That's terrifying, because you disenfranchise women voters who traditionally vote Democratic, you've got a problem. But also, I don't see it beyond the pale that he would order our military to seize voting machines, close polling places, or just park themselves outside and intimidate and scare people away from voting. I think he will do whatever it takes. He knows what he's facing. And if we win the House and the Senate, not only will he'll be impeached, he'll be convicted. And then he has to actually face real justice, because the January 6th case didn't go away. It was just put on hold. Jack Smith is testifying this week, friends. We're going to learn a lot this week. And plus, the Epstein stuff is still out there as well. So I think desperate times call for desperate measures. We should never. This is a person who launched a deadly attack on our Capitol in order to stay in power. He will do whatever it takes to make sure that he's not held accountable. And we cannot suffer from a lack of imagination on what that might look like.
Very good point with the Epstein files and the Jack Smith testimony, which is going to be public. But we've already seen some of his testimony behind closed doors, which was not a good look for Donald Trump. And I trust Jack Smith. I truly do.
Yeah.
as he's used the term, beyond a reasonable doubt. We thought that Donald Trump was guilty of this, this, and this. So, yeah, we're going to see it pan out publicly right now. There's a man with, in my estimation, a lot of credibility.
Yeah.
And I certainly have a lot of respect for Jack Smith. I also have a lot of respect for you, JoJo. I love what you do. Can you explain to my listeners how people can follow you and watch your podcasts, which are phenomenal, by the way? And you always have a great crew. I love Julie. She does this show a lot, and she's on your podcast, I know. Give me that information so my listeners can tune in.
So right now, they can find me on the Siren Network, which is a media company that I co-founded with my friend and partner, Sam Schwartz. And we have new contributors joining all the time. We just added a new show today.
Nice.
So excited about that. Yeah. So the Siren Network is helmed on Substack. You can go to the sirennetwork.com, or you can just go to Substack and go to my Are You Effing Kidding Me personal Substack, which is where I right now have an article out that I wrote yesterday about Michael Cohen and my feelings on Michael Cohen, which was really difficult for me to write. Really difficult for me to write. I had a reckoning, and I needed to apologize for aligning myself and helping somebody revise and rewrite their own history. And I need to own that. And I did yesterday, and I meant every word of it, and I stick by it. You can find me on all the socials at JoJo from Jurors. And yeah, I've got 2 podcasts, The Siren, and I have a new one launching next week that I am very excited about, with a familiar name that you guys all know. So look for that too.
I can't wait for that. I can't wait to listen. And JoJo, always appreciate it when you come on. I look forward to reading that article about Michael Cohen. I haven't read that. I'll definitely check that out on your Substack. And I always appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you for doing this again. And we will talk to you soon. Yeah, I'll let you enjoy the rest of Martin Luther King Day, and we'll talk soon. Okay. Thanks for the time, JoJo.
Great to see you.
Great to see you too. There you go, everybody. I love her. Joanna Carducci. I love what she does. She's a fighter. She's a winner. I tell you what, man, if you're going to be on any panel, that's the person that I choose. If I need someone to fight for me on any panel, whether it's Pierce Morgan, whoever it is, I want JoJo on my side. That's for sure. She is a firecracker. She's great. And always appreciate it when she takes the time to join us. I do want to go to the YouTube super chat, if I may, and want to give a call out to my good friend Darcy. Happy Martin Luther King Day, Darcy. She's a great supporter of the show. She's in the YouTube super chat, and she says, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. MLK, we must stay the course unapologetically. Thank you, Brian, for doing more than your share. Your friend Darcy. Well, I'm very happy and very lucky to call Darcy a friend of mine, and I appreciate that. Also, there are some other I believe there are some others that we are going to be putting up as well. You can get into the YouTube super chat, the minimum of a $5 donation, and we'll read your comments on the air. Electric Dad says, if I get to hold the Super Bowl trophy, does that mean I won the game? That's actually very funny. Yeah. Well, what's the next fake award that Donald Trump is going to be getting? I mean, it's just insane. The egomaniacs, and it's just absolutely sick. And it's gross, and I appreciate your support, Electric. Thank you very much. One more from Lori, another great supporter of the show. Hi, Lori. Lori says, Republican leaders wake up and stop Trump. He is either going to destroy our country or start World War III, impeach him. Well, obviously, Lori, I agree with you on that one. That goes without saying. I don't think we need to take a break. I think we're going to get right to it. Obviously, I've been talking a lot about the news over the course of the last 24 hours. I wake up yesterday. I'm doing a little bit of work preparing for the show today. And all of a sudden I see my friend Don Lemon is the top trending story on Twitter. So I'm like, uh-oh, what's going on here? And then I look at some of the videos and I see that there was a protest at this local church in Minneapolis, and Don Lemon was just recording it as a journalist. And I hear chants from some of these protesters. They're saying, hands up, don't shoot. They're saying other things like, say her name, Renee Good. They're protesting. And a lot of people on the right are calling for Don Lemon to be arrested. They're calling for all these people in the church to be arrested. They broke the FACE Act, so on and so forth. Allegedly, one of the pastors at this church is an ICE agent. Can't confirm that. Don't know that for sure. But this was the interaction that Don Lemon had with one of those pastors that only lasted about a minute or so. Have a listen to this exchange.
What do you think of this?
I mean, this is unacceptable. It's shameful. It's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship. So,
but there were folks who will say,
I have to take care of my flock.
okay, but listen, we live in there's a constitution in the First Amendment to freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and protest.
We're here to worship. We're here to worship Jesus because that's the hope of these cities. That's the hope of the world is Jesus Christ.
I want to be very respectful. Please don't push me, though.
We're here to worship Jesus.
Yes.
That's why we're here.
Yes.
Okay, that's why we're here.
Okay.
That's what we're about.
Don't you think Jesus would be understanding
we're about
and love these folks?
We're about spreading the love of Jesus.
But did you try to talk to them as a Christian?
No one is willing to talk.
Okay.
I have to take care of my church and my family, so I asked that you actually would also leave this building.
You don't want us to chronicle what happened?
Unless you're here to worship.
I'm always worship. I'm a Christian.
We're here to worship.
Yeah.
We're here to worship. Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, he's here to worship. First of all, he didn't make an attempt to really have conversations with any of these people. He's a liar. And let me be very clear. Don Lemon did not break any laws. And he said he would have come on the show today, but he said he was very tired. He's been through a lot the last 24 hours. I said, we'll have him on later in the week. But I spoke to Don Lemon this morning. I spoke to him on the phone last night. He's doing fine. He did not break any laws. He committed journalism. Is that a felony? I don't know. All he did was record what was taking place, and then he did a 1-minute interview that I just played. He didn't orchestrate a mob of people. It wasn't an insurrection of a church. He didn't organize any of it. He just heard that they were going to be there. He showed up to record. That's all he did. He did not break any laws, and if they arrest Don Lemon, it's under false arrest as far as I'm concerned. They didn't do anything wrong. Now, if they want to arrest and open up a full investigation, which my understanding they are, you're not going to investigate Jonathan Ross, who killed an innocent 37-year-old woman, but you want to investigate a bunch of people who were just chanting out Renee Good's name in a church. Oh, all sacred church. Oh, God. Oh, God. The church was disrupted. Oh, God. Because to me, these right-wing evangelical douchebags who are Bible thumpers care more about this than they care about a 37-year-old woman who was killed. And, you know, Dillian, who is the assistant DOJ attorney, had this to say about Don Lemon as she made the rounds on some of the right-wing networks earlier today.
Soundbite that we played that Don Lemon used the word we. Not protesters, not they, not them, or in their preferred pronouns. He said we. Does that put him on the line as a protester and lose his First Amendment media coverage?
I was this position of his is so stupid. I was trying to figure out how to put it in layman's terms. Imagine you have a bank robbery that's being planned by a number of criminals. They're crossing state lines. They're using the wires, and then a podcaster says, well, let me embed myself in here and come along for the ride and live stream the crime. That would not be protected by the First Amendment. And so it is a crime to disrupt and harass and make people in a church or any house of worship feel unsafe in this country. And when you're part of that planning and show up and ride along and laugh outside about and make commentary outside about how disrupting and putting people in fear is literally part of protest and part of the plan, we are not reaching conclusions now. Of course, everybody is entitled to the presumption of innocence. But if I were giving advice to a journalist about this, which I have done in the past, I would say do not participate in a crime actively.
Yeah, and he was saying a lot of that stuff as these young children were being ushered out by their parents, clearly scared for their lives in that moment.
Oh, really? They were scared for their lives. And wait, come again? How did he participate in a crime? Please explain to me the statute. Please explain to me the crime that Don Lemon was committed when you're in a church and you take out your cell phone and you start recording. Please explain to me what the crime is there. I'm sorry? He was not protesting. He was not screaming. He was not yelling. There was no disorderly conduct there. He was not getting in the way of anybody else. Explain to me the crime that Don Lemon was committing, you wench. Please explain to me what he was doing. He wasn't breaking any laws. But you see, they want to go after a gay black man. That's really what this comes down to. Attack Don Lemon because he's on the left and he's a gay black man. So right-wingers out there want to attack Don Lemon and blame Don Lemon for their hangnail. Throw him in jail. But if you're a white guy and you have ice on your chest and you kill somebody and you murder somebody, not only are you not guilty, but we're going to reward you with millions of dollars, and the Trump administration is going to protect you. You right-wing, Bible-thumping douchebags, you. And here's the assistant attorney general, now claiming, and this is a really weird claim, and this gets my blood boiling, that if you're on the left, you are a godless person and you don't know what a house of worship is, which is insane. Listen to this.
And no, it's not an act of journalism if I kick in the door of a synagogue and run up to the rabbi and start live streaming them as people scream at the at Jewish people trying to pray. No, that's not an act of journalism.
It's desecration. And you
It's
know,
act of terrorism. Yes.
One of the issues here is the people on the left that we're talking about, they're not familiar with what goes on inside a house of worship. They're a lot of them are godless people, obviously, because otherwise, you're right. No matter what house of worship this happens at, this is illegal in America.
Really? You're a godless person if you're on the left. You know how many people that I know that are on the left that are very religious people? You wench, you bimbo, you. There's a lot of people on the left that are very God-loving people and have a moral compass. And by the way, just because you show up and go to church doesn't mean that you're a good person. Just because you show up and go to church doesn't mean that you're a God-loving person with a moral compass, you idiot. Anybody could go to church. Child molesters can go to church. By the way, there has been a lot of that has gone on in the clergy, right? But she wants to say that if you're on the left, you're a godless person. And by the way, the description from that moron on Newsmax that says, kick in the door, Don Lemon didn't kick in any doors. He walked in just like everybody else, and he happened to have a cell phone in his hand. He didn't kick in the door. He didn't lead a charge of insurrectionist. You moron, you. And here she is now on Martin Luther King Day of all days, referring to Tim Walz as Tampon Tim. And by the way, this is the Assistant Attorney General with these name calls. Listen to this.
States that we have an Attorney General in Minnesota, Keith Ellison, a District Attorney, Mary Moriarty, a Mayor, Jacob Fry, and Tim Walz, Tampon Tim, who absolutely refuse to enforce our state laws, their own state laws.
That is an Assistant Attorney General who just called the governor of Minnesota Tampon Tim. Now, obviously, she's a very ignorant woman. She doesn't understand where that came from. It came from a bunch of right-wing grifters that don't understand what that whole situation was about. I've talked about it ad nauseum quickly to educate some of the right-wing mega morons that listen to the show that refer to Tim Walz as Tampon Tim. You see, there were some PTA meetings in Minnesota in a district, and the parents were complaining because after school athletics, there weren't enough room in locker rooms in the schools, so some of the women that were playing sports, or girls that were playing sports there, had to use boys' locker rooms and boys' restrooms without any boys in there because they didn't have enough room in the facilities. So because of that, there were several parents that complained that there should be tampons in boys' bathrooms as well. It had nothing to do with transgenders. It had nothing to do with anything else other than them using the facilities, and they needed, tampons in there, at least some of the parents claimed. So all Tim Walz did was he left it up to the school districts to decide. In the end, not one school in any school district decided to implement that. But yet our Assistant Attorney General, which is scary in itself, is not only ill-informed and uneducated, but just nasty and stupid. And she doesn't even understand. And that's why she calls him Tampon Tim. These people are just nasty individuals. They're ignorant, and they're just morons. I really don't know what else to say. We have a moron in there as the Assistant Attorney General, and the Attorney General is a moron. Kristi Noem is a moron. These are very stupid people. And somebody else who is a former criminal, a former bank wire fraudster, drug dealer, Byron Donalds, who's now trying to be the next governor of Florida, is now talking about these agitators. And again, more fake news information claiming that they're all paid agitators. Listen to this.
Irony here, because just over the holidays, Governor Walz was warning that ICE was going to raid houses of worship and churches at midnight when exactly the opposite has happened. He has, along with the mayor, incentivized these agitators to carry out things like you're watching on our screen now.
This is what I mean. These agitators who, by the way, they are paid, folks. America, they are paid to do this kind of mess. These are the people who will say they have a First Amendment right to speak, but they just trampled on the First Amendment right of that church to be able to worship. That's what they're doing right now, and this is completely unacceptable. But let's be very clear. President Trump and his administration, they're not going to bend the knee to the mob, because that's what the mayor of Minneapolis wants. That's what Tim Walz and Gavin Newsom, these other crazy governors, that's what they want. The Democrats have no solutions about protecting the United States, protecting their people, or having orderly legal immigration into the United States. They want chaos. They want anarchy. They want this, what you're seeing right now on your screens. It's awful. Not going to be tolerated in Florida, Texas, or anywhere else that common sense reigns in the United States.
Well, they're not deploying 2,000 ICE agents to Florida or Texas, number one. Number two, here's my question to Byron. And by the way, we can't count on these moron right-wing anchors who ask these fluffer interview questions. But I would ask Byron, you just said all these protesters are being paid, folks. Who are they being paid from? Where's your evidence? See, just because some right-wing grifter says it on social media doesn't make it true. So I would ask you, where's your evidence that they're being paid? Please. I'm all ears, Byron, you drug-dealing fraudster. I'm all ears. See, when I call somebody a name, I have reason to back it up. You were convicted of drug dealing. You were convicted of bank wire fraud, and it was Democrat policies that helped you get on probation. So I ask you again, Byron, Mr. Drug Dealer himself, Byron, where are you getting the information that these protesters are being paid? We heard the same thing for the No Kings rallies, where millions of peaceful protesters around the country. Who's paying them, Byron? Where are you getting that information from? Has that been proven? Where's your evidence? Of course he doesn't have any, because he's a lying right-wing buffoon scumbag. That's why. And then on Newsmax, Representative Greg Stoop is asked about the Insurrection Act. And yes, there are right-wingers like this buffoon who think that it actually should have been implemented way before this church incident yesterday.
Their homes. Do you think, going back to the church incident in St. Paul, do you think that's enough to trigger President Trump to order the Insurrection Act? Has it gone too far?
I think it's gone too far before that. You have officials and leaders of their state, the governor and the mayor of Minneapolis, basically saying we are not going to follow federal law, basically telling their citizens to stand up and fight against federal law enforcement. The president has every right, when you have leadership that's refusing to follow the law and then encouraging their constituents and their people to fight back against lawful law enforcement functions and obstructing justice, that's every justification I think he would need to go in and establish justice and peace in those regions.
And it's Congressman Greg Steube joining us.
Yeah, Congressman, thank you so much. By the way, another liar, ladies and gentlemen. Please explain to me how anybody on the left told protesters to obstruct justice. You douchebag, another liar. They've actually said the opposite, you lying scum. They've said protest peacefully. They've also tried to lower the rhetoric and say don't break the law. Protest peacefully, record. You're allowed to do these things. It's your right to do so. They have never, not one person on the left has said, an elected official, please obstruct justice. You lying scum, you. And then there goes to Todd Blanche, who was asked by Bream on Fox News yesterday if the FBI will be conducting any investigation at all into ICE agent Jonathan Ross, who in my estimation committed murder and killed Renee Good. I want you to listen to this pathetic excuse for a human being who was Donald Trump's former fixer and attorney give this pathetic excuse as to why they are not conducting any investigation.
Well, the governor's response referenced a number of things, going after Mark Kelly, he says, Alyssa Slotkin, Jerome Powell, but he also mentioned what Matt Finn mentioned in his reporting there. He says the only person not being investigated for the shooting of Renee Good is the federal agent who shot her. So is the FBI conducting an investigation into that agent, into the shooting? What can you tell us about that? Will it be made public?
Look, what happened on that day has been reviewed by millions and millions of Americans because it was recorded on phones when it happened. Okay, the Department of Justice, our civil rights unit, we don't just go out and investigate every time an officer is forced to defend himself against somebody or putting his life in danger. We never do. That has nothing to do with what happened in Minneapolis. There are over 1,000 shootings every year where law enforcement are put in danger by individuals, and they have to protect themselves, and they have a lawful right to do so. The Department of Justice doesn't just stand up and investigate because some congressman thinks we should, because some governor thinks that we should. We investigate when it's appropriate to investigate, and that is not the case here. It wasn't the case when it happened, and it's not the case today. If circumstances change, and there's something that we do need to investigate around that shooting or any other shooting, we will. But we are not going to bow to pressure from the media, bow to pressure from politicians, and do something that we never do. Not under this administration, not under the last administration. And so, no, we are not investigating. And if there comes a time when we need to, we will, but it's not now.
Yeah, well, first of all, Blanche is making this statement that because millions of Americans saw what happened, that there shouldn't be an investigation. That's the dumbest excuse in the world. By the way, there are millions of Americans that think that this is murder and there should be an investigation, Mr. Blanche. That's number two. Number three, this isn't some congressman or some mayor or just some governor that thinks there should be an investigation. Like I said, there are millions of people that have watched this video that believe it was murder. That's why there should be an investigation. Anytime there's an officer-involved shooting, and you clearly have a situation here where there are more questions than answers, you clearly have a situation here beyond the shadow of a doubt that this officer and officers broke proper protocol and training techniques before shots were fired. There has to be an investigation. But the only reason why there's not going to be an investigation is not because millions of Americans are on your side. It's because the Trump administration does not want there to show evidence and proof, which there would be, that this was an unjustified shooting. That's the only reason. And Blanche making the excuse, well, millions of Americans saw it, so, that's why there's not going to be an investigation. We don't believe it's appropriate, is probably the dumbest and lamest excuse I've ever heard or seen in my life. But I wouldn't expect anything else from Donald Trump's fixer himself, Todd Blanche. And then we move on to Kristi Noem. That's right, the cosplay puppy dog murderer, lying flat out by her own department. She's lying when asked on national television earlier today, of all the people that you have in custody right now from ICE, how many of those are violent criminals? Listen to this.
Sure, but you just said millions. What's the breakdown of the percentage of those who you have in custody who have actually committed a criminal offense versus just the civil infraction?
Every single individual has committed a crime, but 70% of them have committed or have charges against them on violent crimes and crimes that they are charged with or have been convicted of that have come from other countries that are here illegally, first of all, and then they have committed a criminal act while they've been here or in their home countries as well.
It's not 70%.
Yes, it is. It absolutely is.
70% of everyone
you
you
guys
have
keep
detained
changing your percentage. You pick and choose what numbers you think work, but that is the facts, is that 70% of the people that we have detained have charges against them or have been convicted of charges, and they need to be brought to justice. And we're going to keep doing that no matter how much you guys keep lying and don't tell the public the truth. It absolutely is that these law enforcement officers are out there every day doing the work to protect the American people, and they will keep doing that because they believe in enforcing the law, which is exactly what President Trump has charged them with.
Okay, well, our reporting is that 47%, based on your agency's own numbers, 47% have criminal convictions against them. But let's talk about the other numbers.
Wrong again. Absolutely. We'll get you the correct numbers so you can use them in the future.
Well, that's from your agency.
What do you mean we'll get you the correct numbers? The numbers put forth by your own agency to the media, which are probably inflated, I would imagine, say less than half of the people that you are arresting have a criminal record. By the way, I would say it's not even close to even 47%. It's probably under 30%. But her own department says it's 47%, and she's going on national television saying 70%. And then she's saying that they're lying. I mean, these people are so despicable. They're so disgusting. Kristi Noem is a lying scum, just like Caroline Leavitt, just like Todd Blanche and any of these other people in Donald Trump's administration. And to close on this, before we take phone calls, I will say this. If you're one of those people that thinks all those should be investigated in this church in Minneapolis for the FACE Act, and that Don Lemon should go to jail for just simply taking out his phone and live streaming and recording, but yet you have no problem with Officer Jonathan Ross not even being investigated into the shooting and, my consideration, murder of Renee Good, then you are a sick, despicable SOB, and I truly hope that you burn in hell. And I mean that, and I will pray to my Jesus that you do. I want to go quickly back to the YouTube Super Chat, if I may. Fallen on the YouTube Super Chat says, if lies were poison, these vile people would unalive every time they opened up their mouths. Well, obviously, I completely disagree with you. We're still in the YouTube Super Chat, by the way. If you'd like to your questions or comments to be read, this is your opportunity to do so. And, of course, as I mentioned earlier, we are opening up the phone lines at 702-221-7283. Also, Greeny-Eyed Bandit says, I'm sick of these lunatics. This whole administration is robbing all of us in broad daylight, playing with our lives like it's a goddamn Monopoly game. Well, obviously, I disagree with you on that as well. I agree with you, not disagree. My apologies. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation. Lori in the YouTube Super Chat says, how about ICE going to schools, churches, courts, and going into home? Double standard. I watched Don's video, and he keeps on saying he's a journalist. Well, you're right, Lori, because Don Lemon is a journalist, and I consider him a really good friend, and he's really good at what he does. And I won't tolerate these attacks against him, these right-wing zealots and these Bible thumpers. They can all go to hell, as far as I'm concerned. Again, 702-221-7283. Let's get right to the phone calls now, if I may. Let's go to Brian. Brian is first up on PTL. What's up, Brian?
Hello, Brian. How you doing,
Hey,
man?
good.
Had a really good birthday weekend, man.
Good.
A lot of family showed a lot of love, man. A lot of PTL family. Wish y'all could have joined me, man, but y'all were there in spirit, and I appreciate you.
Thank you.
So I had a conversation with my father. Remember I was telling you about my father, older black man. He's, 78, nearly 80 years old. And I remember telling you he voted for Donald Trump just for the simple fact that he hates homosexuality. Me being born and raised in church, that's really his only reason. Well, my mother told me, she said he would never admit it, but I was talking to my mother, and she told me that he now regrets his vote.
Well, that's I guess a good start. I guess you got to.
But
start
I told
somewhere.
her he hasn't. Well, you're right. But I told her he hasn't seen anything yet. Imagine when his pension, the woman that he voted against cast a tie-breaking vote to save the union pension, and the fact that these people are actively trying to take your Social Security, something that you both are on.
Yeah, I don't understand why.
And your union pension. Yeah.
I don't understand, Brian, why so many people vote against their own self-interest. I'm glad he's on the right side of history now, but unfortunately it's too little too late. But Brian, I do appreciate your phone call, and I have these conversations with people all the time. More and more people, I probably shouldn't have voted for Trump. I don't like what's going on in this country, but yet they still say, wow, it would have been even worse if Kamala was president. How could you have a conversation with these people? It's just crazy. Back to the YouTube Super Chat. Alexa said, how many people are going to get killed and hurt before Congress steps in? Well, I completely agree with you, and I wish you were wrong, but you're not. You're correct. And as I say all the time, I told you that this would happen. I told you that innocent people would die. I told you that there would be more violence, and it's going to continue unless Donald Trump calls off the troops, or as I would say, ICE agents. It's only going to get worse. 702-221-7283, and again, that number to call is 702-221-SAVE. Let's go to Alexa. Alexa is next up on PTL. Hi, Alexa.
Hi, Brian. I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
What will happen to ICE if they continue to do what they're doing by hurting and killing these people?
Well, Alexa,
Is
Alexa, I'm not trying to I'm not trying to gaslight here, Alexa. I think it's a very fair question that you ask, okay? If this continues, and I hope I'm wrong, but I have to answer honestly, it's going to get worse before it gets better. If the Insurrection Act is implemented, basically all of our rights are taken away in that area. And that scares the hell out of me, and it should scare you as well. I think more people are going to get hurt. More people are going to get unjustifiably arrested. And unfortunately, I think more people are going to die. That could be innocent civilians or ICE agents. Now, I don't want that to happen. But to answer your question as honest as I can, it's going to get worse. The number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation is 702-221-7283. 702-221-SAVE is the number to call. Let's go to Gary. Gary is next up on PTL. Hello, Gary.
Hello.
Hi,
Brian?
Gary. Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
All right. I've called him before. I've voted for Harris. But this weekend we was sitting around. I've got a 9-year-old, and we was watching what's going on in Minneapolis. And I'd like an explanation. What are these people going to do? They're not accomplishing nothing. They're accomplishing getting themselves sprayed in the face with mace. And, yeah, I agree. If they went into that church, yep, absolutely charge them. My 9-year-old said, Dad, I'm glad you taught us to, listen to law. Kids are seeing this. Kids are watching these buffoons out there. They're not accomplishing a damn thing. Nothing at all.
Well,
they're not going to change nothing.
Okay, but Gary,
at all. I just don't understand it.
Okay, so Gary, hear me out here. But what would you say to the peaceful protesters that are not breaking the law? Do you feel the same way about
Well,
them?
that's fine. But they're getting up there aggravating. Get away. If you don't want stuff to happen, get away. And these veterans that went into this church, these veterans that are being charged with federal crimes, hate to tell you, folks, you will lose your benefits. If you go in and commit a federal crime, you're charged, you lose your federal benefits.
Okay, so
a lot of these people.
So Gary,
there's nothing we can do right now. Just go home.
Well,
like this Jolly and all these social media influencers, they're there for the grift. They're not accomplishing nothing. Jolly raised $140,000 and it went nowhere. I tried to go to
Gary,
the creator. He told me.
Okay, so Gary,
this on the left.
Okay, but
you
Gary,
guys are losing.
Okay, so
people.
Gary, hang on a second here. So you said a lot there. I don't necessarily agree with everything you said. I don't necessarily believe that a guy like Jolly is going out there to necessarily just grift and make money. I do believe that Gary. I do believe that Jolly is a passionate guy who cares about this country, and he hates to see what is going on. I would like to think that there's a lot of people out there that are peacefully protesting, and by the way, they're the majority, that are peacefully protesting because they're very upset and they're very frustrated. And listen, we are on Martin Luther King Day. So what would you have said to Martin Luther King back then during the civil rights movement when people were protesting then? If people weren't protesting, and I'm not talking about people that are breaking the law, but I'm saying in general terms, if people weren't protesting back then, I'm not sure we would have had that civil rights movement happen. So listen, I'm not defending anybody that breaks the law. But when you say everybody should just stay home, I completely disagree with that also. I think we have to be – that's like telling me, Brian, you shouldn't be on the radio. You shouldn't be speaking your mind.
What's going to change? Well, they're not doing nothing. Nothing's being accomplished. We can't change anything in this administration.
Okay.
We're not going to have the midterm. Chances are. We got to deal with it. You're not going to do anything but get yourself shot.
I don't want people shot, just like you. I don't want.
Neither do I.
I don't want people getting hurt. But but Gary, I fundamentally disagree with you. I don't think there's anything wrong with peacefully protesting. And sometimes, when you look at the history of this country, sometimes protests are what helped make change in this country. I mean, if there wasn't anything called protests, and yes, some people are violent, and I condemn that. But without protesting, black people might still have to use different water fountains and might be having to sit in the back of the bus. So I respectfully disagree with you on that. And the overwhelming majority of these people are good people, and they're not committing crimes, okay? And that needs to be exposed. Yes, in a perfect world, I wish they didn't have to do this, but I don't think we should just put our hands up in the air and say, hey, let's just stay away, let's not protest, and let the Trump administration do whatever they want to do. No, I don't think that's the right way to go either. I think there needs to be some middle ground to what you're saying.
They're going to do whatever. They're going to do whatever anyway. So, the people's not stopping them. And we're seeing that in real time. Congress is not stepping up.
So what the hell be out there for, getting yourself maced, getting yourself a federal charge? Because you're going to be prosecuted under this administration.
Okay.
I mean, that's what I'm saying.
I
I know everybody's not being violent.
Okay,
But when they're telling you to get away and you're not, you're just continuing to yell, you deserve to be
Well, hold
faced
on.
with mace.
Hold on. If an ICE agent tells somebody, quote, get away, that doesn't mean they have to get
Back
away.
up.
No, but hold on. If they're not interfering in an investigation and they're just standing on a public sidewalk, they don't have to get away. They don't have to.
I know they don't, but they're going to get themselves maced with this group of.
Well, then
fools.
everybody
These
needs to record. Everybody needs to record everything that's going on in
Well,
those.
what's that going to do, Brian?
Well, a
It's
couple
not going to
things.
do nothing.
Well,
it's not going to get you nowhere.
Not
You're
necessarily.
not going to sue like this Robbie guy that thinks he's a clown. He's not going to be able to sue this administration.
What do you mean he
It's
is?
just out there
What
for
do you
the
mean?
grift.
What do you mean he is? Did he just hang up the phone? Okay, well, what you just said, sir, with respect, is 100% factually inaccurate. Robbie already has a lawsuit against the Portland ICE, so you're 100% wrong on that. There are plenty of lawsuits that are being filed against ICE agents and ICE in general. So I'm not sure what you mean when you say they can't accomplish anything. I disagree with you. They are accomplishing a lot, so I disagree with you there. And Robbie Roadsteamer, a personal friend of mine I know for sure, has already filed a lawsuit against the Portland ICE facility, and he's planning on filing another lawsuit. So I completely disagree with you there. I don't think Jolly is a grifter. He's someone who served this country honorably, and he's someone who cares about this country. He's passionate. Yes, he does have a large following, and he does have a large platform, but I can guarantee you what's in Jolly's heart. He's not going out to Minneapolis just so he can make money. The real grifters are the Nick Sorters, the Cam Higbees, and the Nick Shirleys. You think they actually care about fraud? No, they don't. I actually do think Jolly cares about our rights as Americans because he fought for this country. So with respect, sir, I completely disagree with you, and I don't know why you hung up the phone either. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Elijah is next up on PTL, I believe. Hi, Elijah. Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Hello.
Hi. What's on your mind, Elijah?
So I just want to say that I am 22 and I'm about to be 23 as of this month.
Okay.
And I just want to say that there now been 6 confirmed ICE detained deaths. One of them was Evan Sanchez Dominguez and Victor Manuel Diaz.
You're talking about this year? You're talking about since January 1st?
Just now, actually.
Yeah.
They both died on the same day, on the 14th.
Take a look. Take a look at how many people have died in ICE custody just last year. I mean, it's a plethora of people, and one is too many, by the way. But we have no investigations under the Trump administration. None, zero. They don't want any of this stuff investigated, and you know what that means? It sends a message to ICE is that you're above the law and you can do whatever you want, and that's what makes this so dangerous.
Exactly. And the fact of it is that, you know, what's really interesting is that they want to treat minorities like myself because, to me, raised from a white mother and black father, it really makes me really feel so, like, withdrawn because, to me, they're trying to treat minorities like we're the real, like, stupid and poorly uneducated people because they think that they know everything about our early lives, our personal, and our careers. But all they assume is that we're gang members and drug dealers because they
the rhetoric.
judge us
Donald
because of our
Trump.
looks.
Donald Trump has, and thank you for the call, my friend. You're right. Donald Trump has done this years ago. These Mexicans, they're bad people, they're rapists, and I suppose some of them are good people. He told Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar and others to go back to their S-hole countries when AOC was born in the United States of America. This administration, it is white supremacy multiplied by 10. This is a white supremacy agenda. That's what ICE is. They're going after brown people. They're going after you because you have an accent. That's what this is. It's Make America White Again. It is a white supremacist agenda. The entire Trump administration might as well put on a white Klan outfit as far as I'm concerned. We go back to the YouTube super chat. Fallen says, just go home and give up your democracy. What a wretched bootlegger. I think he was talking about the prior caller. I tend to agree with you, and I completely disagree with that assessment that we should all just put our hands up and say, well, the Trump administration is going to do whatever they want to do, and there's really nothing that we can do about it. I mean, it's absolutely and positively ridiculous. Green-Eyed Bandit said, I feel we won't have a midterms. That SOB in office rather end the effing world before he is ever held accountable for anything. Sadly, I agree with you on that one as well. Completely. Fallen says, where are all the Second Amendment protects 1A Gravy SEALs? Oh, that's right. They joined ICE. Bootlicking racist. Again, I agree with everything you guys are saying. Some great comments in the YouTube Super Chat. Please keep it up. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Stephen. Stephen is next up on PTL. Hi, Stephen. What's up?
Oh, not much, man. Just wanted for you to thank Mr. Donald Trump for all this content you're putting out, man. If it wasn't for him, you wouldn't have any content.
So you do realize Joe Biden was president the prior 4 years, and I had plenty of content. In fact, that was the moment when my YouTube...
It wasn't as good as this, sir.
Oh, okay, well, you're entitled to your own opinion, sir. I really appreciate that compliment very, very much. But
thank Donald Trump.
No, I'm not. So that would be like saying telling a police officer, thank all the people that are committing crimes, otherwise you wouldn't have a job. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. So, Stephen, do you have anything semi-intelligent you'd like to discuss today?
Yeah, get rid of the dollar. It's going down.
Get rid of the dollar? What?
Yep, invest in gold and silver, sir.
Okay, well, do you have...
There will be no dollar bill.
Thank you, Stephen. I know you're probably a professional insider trading. I'm sure you've made boatloads of money with your investments.
And you suck at sports betting. You suck at sports betting.
I suck at sports, buddy. Stephen, hold on. We can pot him back up. Don't hang up on him. Okay, so Stephen, hang on a second. Stephen, hang on a second. Calm down. Let's discuss this a little bit. Because I'd love to hear your sports accolades. Not that anybody really cares, but I'm happy to have this conversation with you.
Well, the Golden Knights,
Stephen, calm down. One thing at a time. Stephen, are you aware that I went to college for free on a Division I sports scholarship? Or where did you go to college?
Oh, where'd you play?
Stephen, Central Connecticut State University.
I said, what'd you play?
I played pin the donkey on your mother. What do you think about that?
You didn't play any.
I'll tell you. No, I played 2 Division I sports. I played golf and tennis in college. I actually had this debate with Myron Gaines the other day. So, yes, I played golf and tennis, and I was on a Division I sports scholarship. Okay, Stephen, so let's ask a little bit about you now. So, Stephen, where did you go to college, and were you on a scholarship? Please answer my question.
Ball State.
Okay, so what did you play?
I didn't play sports.
Oh, wait a second. I didn't play sports, but you suck at sports. So I'm going to call into a radio show with my 2 teeth, and I'm a MAGA supporter, and I live in my mobile home, and I'm going to call that Brian Shapiro because I don't have a job. And I'm going to call in, and I'm going to say, Brian, you suck at sports, even though Brian went to college for free on a sports scholarship and has plenty of sports accolades. See, I went to Ball State, but I never played sports. Well, you know what? Why don't you just stick to eating your chips and your salsa and your 400 pounds sitting on your mobile home couch, okay? And why don't you have a nice day, Stephen, because you're obviously not smart enough to have a logical, opinionated conversation, Stephen. You're a very stupid individual, okay? And if you're going to call into this show, Stephen, if you're going to call into the show, at least have something semi-intelligent to say, dumbass. At least have something
You don't even have anything to say.
Bye. Have a nice day, Stephen. He's spurring out. Have a nice day, Stephen. I think we just proved who has the sports accolades and who doesn't. I think we also proved on who has an IQ under 20 and who doesn't. Have a nice day, Stephen. Go watch your Newsmax or your Fox News or plan your next insurrection of the Capitol. Have a nice day, Stephen. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Jason. Jason is next on PTL. Hello, Jason.
Okay, will you allow me to do this little soliloquy for you, brother?
Please, go right ahead.
Number one, I think it's too good for them to be called mushroom gobblers anymore.
Okay.
Number two, I think MAGA is the cult of death. But now I'm really going to take away, I will never call a MAGA mushroom gobbler again. I got something that will always irritate all of them.
Okay.
First of all, the president is a president pedo protector. That's what it is, the president of pedo protecting. He protects pedos. He said it. My friends are on the Epstein list. He's a pedo protector. And anybody that agrees with Trump is a pedo protector. That's what you call all of them now. Her and all the rest. You're a pedo protector. And how you like that? You're a pedophile protector, and I feel sorry for you because, and not only that, these people that are so worried about Charlie Kirk, this lady said, we're cool, dude, and they shot the lady in the face. So they don't love life, they love death. Because that's what this lady, that cheering she died, yet they want us to cry about Charlie Kirk.
I agree. I agree.
Of death.
I agree, Jason, and I think you're absolutely right. Donald Trump is a pedo protector. I kind of still like the mushroom gobbler a little bit, so I probably won't throw that away, Jason. But I think that Donnie, the pedo protector, Trump is something that I will definitely use. But Trump mushroom gobbler is something that's got to stay too. I'm sorry. Somebody on X just made a statement and said that Stephen. I can't repeat it on the air. It's too nasty. It was about the caller, Steve, and I can't say it. 702-221-7283. It's funny, though. We have a lot of creative comments today. Let's go to Alex. Alex is next on PTL. Hi, Alex.
Hey, what's up? Hey, what's up, Brian? Happy New Year, man.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Happy New Year.
Alex from D.C. What's up, bud?
What's going on?
Hey, I have this thing of once ICE gets disbanded, once we get somebody normal in obviously Congress, obviously the presidency, once all these ICE people get disbanded, what's going to happen? What do you think? I'm conspiracy theory right now. What do you think is going to happen? All these.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, you follow me? You follow me a little bit?
Yeah.
Once these militia gets disbanded, are they going to turn on us?
What I am in
What do you
fear
think?
is local law enforcement and police getting into it with ICE officers. I feel like that's going to happen sooner than later. I think there's a bigger chance that happens. For example, you have ICE agents that are
No, I'm saying that could be right now.
Right.
Local law enforcement being, but I'm saying on the bigger spectrum.
Yeah.
What do you think of once these? It's literally like the Confederates that they go away, like in the Civil War they go away, but then they still have their arms.
Yeah. I don't think any of this is going to, quote, go away until Donald Trump.
It's not going to go good. It's not going to be good.
I
like
wish
you said. Like you just said.
I wish you were wrong.
It's not going to be good.
I wish you were wrong, but I
know.
don't think
I
you
wish I
are.
was wrong too.
I don't think you are, and I'm not trying to scare people. Listen, if you listen to this show, which I know you do regularly, you know that 6 months ago,
Dude,
6 months ago,
I met you.
Yeah, 6 months. Six
Yeah.
months ago, I told everybody that people were going to die, and innocent people are going to die if he puts these ICE officers all over the country acting like thugs.
I knew that from the get-go, and yes.
Yeah, so this is only going to get worse. Sadly, I do agree with you, but we cannot. I completely disagree with one of the other callers when he said, well, we just have to put our hands up in the air and say, oh, well. No, that is not the way this country works. There are too many fighters out there. I'm not condoning violence, but people have the right to peacefully protest. And I love the Jolly Ginger, and I love these people that are out there. Don Lemon, the Jolly Ginger, and others that care about our democracy, that care about what's going on in this country. It's sick. It's disgusting. It's horrific. And it's unfortunately, I agree with you. Let's get back to the YouTube super chat, where Fallon says, we tried to warn everyone when ICE was formed after the 9/11 panic in Bush. Border Patrol is even worse than ICE. Look up the land of open graves. Oh, I'm very familiar with that, Fallon, and I agree with you. And you look at Obama, and when Obama deported millions, but we didn't have any of these issues that we had now. We didn't have any of them. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation. Let's go to Randy. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Randy is on line 6. Hey, Randy, what's going on? Hi, Randy. Are you there?
I'm here.
Hey, Randy, go right ahead.
Yeah, I just want to let you know I'm a fairly new listener to your show, and God bless you. I just turned 74 years. I just turned 74 years old.
Well, God bless
And
you,
I
sir.
want
Thank
the-
you for calling in.
Thank you. I wanted to let the guy know who said protesting doesn't work. I protested the Vietnam War back in the early 70s and got shot with wood pellets and tear gassed. But we were peaceful, and we didn't give up. And people noticed. And our goal here, I mean, these people like Kristi Noem and all these, they're not going to stop their bullshit. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. But
Yeah, no swearing, but go ahead.
we have to worry about their followers, and we have to make sure that all independent and Democratic voters show up in the next election. Because if we all show up, there's no way they can win. And that's the only way that we're going to get through this, is to get this idiot out of office.
Randy, you bring up a good point. You bring up a really good point, because you were a protester, as you said, in the 70s. And nobody can convince me that the things that you guys were doing didn't work. And, you're standing for something. You're standing for the right side of history and peacefully protesting and fighting for democracy. Or in this case, in Minneapolis, fighting for our own human rights and what these ICE agents are doing. No warrants, breaking down doors. It's sick. And I'm not talking about warrants for violent criminals. I don't have a problem with that. But the way ICE is going about this is sick. There's a reason why Obama, in the days of Obama, local law enforcement officials were working with ICE agents, because they were treating people as human beings. They were doing it in an orderly fashion. They weren't murdering people on the streets. Okay, this is the opposite of what this administration is doing. And Barack Obama wasn't gleeful about it. He wasn't celebrating and smiling about it. Those in the Trump administration, they want to make this country white. And that's why they're doing this, and you know that. And for anybody that calls into this show that says that we should just put our hands in the air and say, oh, well, there's nothing we can do about it, don't protest, you know what, screw you. Screw anybody that makes a statement like that when people like you did the right thing.
I agree 100%, and we just have to hold on, and we have to keep voicing our opinions, and we have to make sure everybody gets out and votes, because these idiots, I mean, they're out of control. I used to laugh. Now I'm sad, and I'm shocked. It's like, oh, my God, what are they going to do next? But we have to keep together. We have to keep peaceful protests. We have to do what we need to do to get this orange idiot and his gang of stupidity out of office. And really, I appreciate you. I appreciate what you're doing, and I appreciate your time.
Well, thank you.
God bless, and have a great day.
I appreciate you, my friend. I'm glad you found this show. You please call back anytime, and I appreciate you. And we have somebody that protested during Vietnam, and yet people want to call into this show. And they want to say, oh, just throw your hands in the air and say, well, let the Trump administration do whatever they can do, and there's nothing we can do about it. I absolutely disagree with you. Wholeheartedly, 100%. I'm not saying put yourself in harm's way. I'm not saying bring your kids to these rallies. I'm not saying break the law, but peacefully protest and record everything. Let's go to Tyrone. Tyrone is next up on PTL. 702-221-SAVE. Hi, Tyrone.
Hey, Brian, good afternoon.
Hey.
Happy Martin Luther King's Day.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I heard the previous one of your callers say there's not going to be any midterms. There's nothing you can do. You just got to wait this regime out.
Insane.
That's what they want you to do. They want you to fall into a rut, get scared, and not speak up for your rights.
Yeah.
Reality is they have a horrible record in the courts. I mean, if they were a professional team, they would be number one in the pick in the draft. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. How did that go down with James Comey? How did it go down with Letitia James? How did those cases work out for the Trump administration? It's a joke. If they try to arrest Don Lemon, it's a joke. Don Lemon did not break any laws. Do you find it? Let me ask you a question. Do you find it a portion of this, of the people that went into that church who may have broken the law? I don't know, but I know nobody was injured. I know nobody was killed. I find that the color of their skin certainly has something to do with this, because the leader of that group is an African-American woman, my understanding. I think a part of this is that Don Lemon happens to be a gay black man. They always want to target and go after brown people. That is what the Trump administration does.
Right. They want their boogeyman, and they want to make it the gay black man, the black woman. But the reality is, they just want to inconvenience people like Don Lemon, because the case will go nowhere. You have First Amendment right, the freedom of the press. You also have the right to protest. And the fact of the matter was, when the people were asked to leave, my understanding, they left.
Yeah.
And so no police was called. But see, we cannot get afraid. We cannot get into this mindset of people talking about, oh, I'm going to ride around with my passport. I'm going to ride around. Yeah. I'm not walking around. I'm a natural born U.S. citizen. Lived here all my life.
Yeah.
I ain't walking around with nothing more than my driver's license.
Amen.
I wish.
And you should not be harassed. You should not be harassed or asked for ID. You know, a lot of these people on the right, they're citing the FACE Act, because the FACE Act says if you interrupt a religious gathering, if Holy Church is interrupted, that you have to be arrested and it's a felony. Well, let me tell you who, in my opinion, is disrespecting the FACE Act. The guy who wakes up in the morning and puts on 8 layers of orange makeup with his 4 hair transplants. That's if there's anybody that is violating the FACE Act per se, my FACE Act, it would be Donald Trump and Caroline Leavitt. That's what I would say.
Hey, Brian, the only fear that I have is that somebody is going to take out one of these federal agents, and that's going to escalate to some ugly stuff.
We don't want that to happen, and that's going to make things even worse. That's going to make things even worse. But I'm not going to say it's not going to happen. It could.
Right. These agents need to realize there will be another administration, and murder charges have no statute of limitations.
Yeah.
They need to realize that there will most likely be a Democratic administration, and you will be prosecuted. You may not be prosecuted today or in the next couple of years, but that guy, Jonathan Ross, he will see a courtroom. He will see a courtroom.
No doubt.
So these people,
I hope so.
They need to think about that.
I certainly hope you're right, my friend, and I really do appreciate your call. Happy Martin Luther King Day to you as well. Going back to the YouTube Super Chat where Kirk has said, democracy is not free. We must fight, never give up. Kirk, I could not agree with those statements even more, and I hope that everybody is listening to what you say because that is important. Great comments in the YouTube Super Chat today, by the way. I get to give you guys a lot of credit. Really enjoying reading your comments. I have, for the most part, a very intelligent band of listeners, loyal listeners at PTL Nation, and I'm very humbled and grateful by that. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Terry. Terry is next on PTL. What's up, Terry?
Hi, Brian. Man, it's getting a little disturbing out here how people just want us to lay down.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. I mean, that would... If we laid down back in Nazi Germany against the Gestapo, guess what would have happened?
You're so right.
You know what I'm saying?
You are so right. I agree.
That's what's happening right here. They are modern-day Gestapo and nothing more.
Guess who agrees with you?
They don't.
Guess who agrees with you? Joe Rogan agrees with you on that. Of all people.
They are nothing more than, and they are thugs. What anybody could dress up like them and join that crowd of thugs with no. A trained killer could join them, and they wouldn't even know the difference. Who's who?
Some of them might be. Some of them are felons. Some of them could be January 6th insurrectionists. They're all cowards. They wear those scarves around their face because they don't want to be identified. They're all cowards, these people. 47 hours of training. They're all Trump, MAGA, ill-informed for the most part. I shouldn't say all, but most of them, especially the new ones in ICE, are thugs, and they're ill-informed and uneducated idiots, MAGA supporters, white people who are gleeful.
And I figured these guys are instigators and trying to start a civil war. And people of this country don't realize that civil war, if we go into a civil war, their jobs are down the drain. The economy's gone crazy. We don't have people who live and don't own their homes, don't have any places to live. Everything just comes to a crazy stop. Food, there are going to be food lines, bread lines, all kinds of stuff. Yeah. And people need to actually get involved against this evil person.
Well, that's right.
Because that's what he is.
That's what
he is.
Amen. Amen, brother.
Everything about him is evil. And you can hide in the church and do whatever you want.
Yep.
But evil is evil.
Yep, you're right. Donald Trump is an evil man. I agree with everything you just said. Great phone call. And I love your passion. And those are the types of people, that man who just called in, those are the people that I want out there peacefully protesting. Those are the good, hardworking Americans, people that love this country, that hate to see what's going on right now through the Trump administration. Thank you for the call, sir. Let's go to Phil. Phil is next up on PTL. Hey, Phil, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing, Brian?
Good.
Hey, I just had some thoughts. I want your feedback.
Sure.
When we get close to the midterm elections,
yep,
I'm just wondering if we should halt all protests throughout this country. Because my fear is Trump's going to invoke martial law. And I'm just thinking, why give him ammunition to invoke martial law?
I
Why don't we just...
I don't think they can stop the protest right now in Minneapolis. I don't think that's what you're advocating for.
No, I'm saying
I understand.
probably a month before election.
So I get what you're saying. Listen, if you had said that to me before the January 6th insurrection, or even maybe a year ago, I would have said, oh, you're crazy. I'm not saying that now. Anything is on the table. So I'm not saying, what you're saying isn't, I don't,
valid.
I don't, right. I'm not saying it's not valid. Right. Yes, I do believe that before the midterms, that might not be a bad idea, and that certainly makes sense to me. Donald Trump, it's on the table. There might not be an election, so we obviously need to do anything and everything we can to make sure that doesn't happen, and that could be one of the things that we might need to do. And let's revisit that in a month or two, my friend, and call back in. And I think you bring up a valid point. Let's go to the MAGA Destroyer. It wouldn't be a show without Darlene. Darlene, what's going on?
Hey, Brian. Now, Brian, I want y'all to hear this.
Sure.
I watched Don Lemon's live stream all day. Now, I got off before the church thing.
Yep.
But I want to tell y'all what I witnessed. Don Lemon drove up into the protesters. The next thing you know, he went and bought 32 cups of coffee. He bought donuts for everyone, and he was standing out there. Everybody was peaceful. Mm-hmm. There was 4 people, protesters, that said, now, let me tell you what's going to happen. CBS is going to come in here in about a few minutes because they do it all the time, and they're going to, the ICE guys are going to get all rolled up, come over there, try to start trouble so they can have a film. Brian, it wasn't 10 minutes later, exactly what they said. CBS drove up, they came over there with their cameras, and then the next thing you know, the ICE people thought they were going to get a good film, but the protesters didn't do anything back. But anyway, Don Lemon was standing there, and some of the protesters started talking to the guys with the camera from CBS. And they were getting a little rowdy, and Don Lemon cut them down.
Yep.
Now, listen to this, guys. Don Lemon said, do not treat them like that. They're just doing their job, and that is not their fault that they're working for CBS. So, guys, y'all need to knock it off. He was there making sure people weren't getting out of line. He was there helping people.
Because
so
Don
I don't
Lemon,
know what y'all are talking about.
Because Don Lemon is a decent man. But when you see all these people on the right with their hatred towards people who are black and people who are gay, Don Lemon is certainly the culprit of that. I was one of the first people to talk to him last night when he didn't even know that he was the top trending story on Twitter. I watched the entire video, and let me be very clear. Don Lemon did not break any laws. He was not part of the protest. No. He wasn't doing anything disorderly. He was simply recording. And guess what? In the United States of America, you're allowed to record. If you're in a private business, if they ask you to leave, you need to leave. And that's when Don Lemon did do that. But the bottom line is that Don Lemon did not break any laws, and this is just another example of the Trump administration not wanting to investigate an ICE agent who I believe committed murder, not even an investigation into that when a 37-year-old woman is shot in the face and killed, but you want to investigate Don Lemon, who just was recording on his cell phone in a church. If you're one of those people that's totally okay with that, then you're a Bible-thumping piece of human garbage. Darlene, I don't know where Marlene came from. Darlene, I appreciate the call, my dear. Happy Martin Luther King Day to you.
You too.
Thank you, my dear. Let's go quickly to Carl. I believe Carl is next up on PTL. Hey, Carl. Hi, Carl. Go right ahead.
Hey, Brian.
Hey.
Brilliant show as usual.
Thank you.
Listen, I've got just 20 seconds. I just put together a quick psychological profile of the greatest president that we ever had in this country. And here it is. Some people grow up. Some just grow older. So put that together.
That's Donald Trump for you right there, right? Yeah.
That puts them all in one little package.
Yeah.
Some people grow up and some just grow older. He hasn't grown up. He just grows older.
Yeah.
And that's the end of him. So I'll let you go, but
thank you, Carl.
Great show.
Thank you, Carl. I appreciate it. We're running up here against the clock to the end of the show. I want to just remind you guys of some guests that I have throughout the remainder of the week. And you know what? I'm forgetting some of the guests. I've already booked some guests for Thursday and Friday. I'm forgetting about those. But tomorrow on the program, David Pollack is a host now on OAN, and we are going to be doing a short 15-minute debate with him because he thinks that this ICE shooting was justified. So you know that's going to get heated. And then a really interesting interview tomorrow at the bottom of the hour. A former attorney general is going to be joining us on the show, and he's a Republican. And he's going to be sharing with us why he thinks Donald Trump broke the law and that the charges against Maduro will not hold in a U.S. court of law. Very, very interesting. So that will be tomorrow as well. So our Facebook page has now grown it's crazy. In 2 months, we've been consistently posting on our Facebook fan page, and we're fastly approaching. I think we're going to pass 59,000 subscribers today, probably get to 60,000 tomorrow, so help us there. It's the Pushing the Limits Facebook page. The YouTube page is about to pass 160,000 subscribers. And good news around the corner, because I just received, my friend just helped me order some podcasting equipment, and I'm setting up a studio in my home as we speak. And I'm going to be doing a lot of live streams at all different hours of the day, at night, maybe early in the morning, probably not early in the morning, but maybe at night. I'm going to be doing a lot more live streaming, and it's going to be interactive. We're going to figure out ways to get you guys on the show. But, you know, everybody else that seems to be popular on the left and the right seems to be live streaming. So now I'm going to be doing it. So we're still going to do this show 12 to 2, of course, Monday through Friday. But we're going to be doing a lot of live streaming, which means you're going to get to see more of me. So please subscribe to my YouTube page. Give me the thumbs up. Be interactive on YouTube at PTL Radio Show. On X, I am the Brian Shapiro, where I just consistently antagonize MAGA. And then, of course, the Facebook fan page at PTL Radio Show, Pushing the Limits. And, you know, go to my website, pushingthelimits.live, where we accept donations. $5, $10, $20 a month. Whatever you can afford, go to pushingthelimits.live, and you are supporting independent media. Pushingthelimits.live. Press that button that says donate. Whatever you can afford, we greatly appreciate it, and I thank you for that. We will be back at it tomorrow, same time, same place. Have a great day, everybody.